Library. I am Holly Camino, manager of the Parma Branch Library. Before we get started with our main event here tonight, I just have a few housekeeping items to go over with everyone. First of all, we love to hear from you all. So please post where you're watching from in the comments on Facebook or in the chat if you are on Zoom. I'm also looking forward to hearing all of your questions, so please post those as well so we can ask Chris and Anna as we go along tonight. And finally, if you haven't purchased your copy of Moments Like This, then you need to. The link to our local bookseller, Max Backs on Coventry, is provided in the comments, so make sure to order your copy today and support your local bookseller friends. Tonight, I am thrilled to introduce you to our featured authors, Kristoffer, Polaha, and Anna Gomez. Chris first received attention for his portrayal of John F. Kennedy Jr. in the TV movie America's Prince, the John F. Kennedy Jr. story. He is best known for his longtime starring role in the critically acclaimed series Life Unexpected. Other TV credits include Get Shorty, Condor, Ringer, Valentine, as well as North Shore. In addition to co-starring with Rainn Wilson and Backstrom, he had a multi-season role on the acclaimed series Mad Men and Castle. Chris is also well known for starring in Hallmark Channel movies such as Dater's Handbook with Meghan Markle and the Mystery 101 franchise on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries. He has appeared in numerous independent features, including Where Hope Grows, Devil's Knot, and the Tim Tebow film Run the Race. He also has a featured role in Wonder Woman 1984 and the forthcoming Jurassic World Dominion. Anna Gomez was born in the Philippines and was educated abroad. She is Chief Financial Officer for global advertising company Leo Burnett Worldwide. Under the pen name Christine Bray, Anna has published 6 novels. Her titles rank in the top 100 months after their release. Her last 3 novels, In This Life, 8 Goodbyes, and The Year I Left, have won literary awards and were immediate bestsellers on Amazon, ranking #1 across multiple categories. Welcome to both of you, and congratulations on all the success of your first book.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
So to get us started, for everyone watching, can you give us a synopsis of what Moments Like This is about without giving away too much of the storyline?
Chris?
You're going to throw it to me, Anna, huh?
Yeah.
I would say that it's about a young woman named Andy who has a bit of a nervous breakdown after working so hard and putting a lot of life goals on hold for her work. And she's disappointed. And in her disappointment, her best friend, Appy, says, "Why don't you come to Hawaii and take care of my coffee shop?" And so reluctantly she does. And when she gets to Hawaii, to the island of Oahu, this whole new life opens up for her. And it's about her discovery of really herself and living in the moment and finding love along the way.
Good job.
Thanks.
We all want to know, how did this all get started? I think we'd all love to hear the story of how the world of Anna Gomez and Chris Polaha collided to bring us this new book series, From Kona with Love. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, we met through a neighbor of Chris's who I'd approached, early last year about helping me try to get some contacts for people or producers who would be interested in, in scripts for my other books, the books that I had written under Christine Bray. And, Chris had just started his production company at that time. And a friend of mine, our friend Javier, recommended, why don't I have a neighbor named Kristoffer Polaha? Maybe I can bring it up with him when I see him. And so he did. And we got on a Zoom call a couple days later. And here we are writing 5 books together.
Yeah.
That's a very brief synopsis.
Yeah. So what was that conversation like? Like, hey, you want to write a book together? And
No, we had
Chris-
actually had a conversation about my previous books, and Chris was very open and transparent with me. I know nothing about that side of the industry, and so we were talking about how the books were probably, because he's a Hallmark, mostly he's been working with Hallmark, and so we were talking about how my books were probably not the right format for Hallmark. And then we say this story all the time, but I'm gonna do like a time stamp here, Chris, because because the way you say it like happened in like 30 seconds. It did happen in 30 seconds, but it was more, we were talking about the old books, and then Chris had said, but one day maybe you'd like to consider, we could write a book together. It would be more feasible if we owned the rights to the book and the story and whatnot. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm writing a series right now set in Hawaii. Would you like to kind of join me or co-write it with me? And that was kind of the start of the conversations about A Moment Like This. And I think we hit it off really well. And in a couple of days, we had signed a collaboration agreement, and off we went. So
Yeah, less than a week after the first phone call, we confirmed the idea and then went for it, which was crazy in retrospect. Like looking at it in hindsight, it happened so seamlessly and so easily. And it's been a really truly a wonderful collaboration. I mean, it's just been so much fun and a lot of work. I mean, it's been real work and we're almost in a year. Was it last May that we met, or was it end of April?
beginning of May. Yeah.
It was beginning of May, so we're coming in on a year. Yeah. And we've written 2 books in that year.
And I think I heard that you guys haven't really actually met in person yet. Is that true?
Yes, it's true.
That's
Okay.
true.
It's true.
So you're just doing it all, is it a scheduled Zoom call? What does your process look like where you guys are able to have contact with each other and discuss the book?
Yeah, it was a weekly Zoom call. It still is.
Uh-huh.
Zoom call. So we've been doing Zoom calls.
Yeah, Anne is one of the most organized people I know. So she'll be like, okay, I'm scheduling a call 1:00 Friday. And I'll say, great. And we get on and she's like, okay, I've got my list of notes. And then so we go through and I'll have like some chicken scratch. I'll be like, oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about, and I'll have to go through like 6 pages of stuff. Like, okay, what about this, that, and the other? It's been a good collaboration in that way. I think that the fact that we've had organization, the fact we've checked in with each other, that consistency has led to some really good work.
Do you guys take turns writing chapters, or how are you doing the dialogue?
I think our process has evolved. Wouldn't you say, Chris? It's evolved in the last couple books. The first book we did some of the what Chris calls chapter tennis, where we went back and forth on different chapters and gave our thoughts and wrote and tweaked. When he came into the picture for Moments Like This, I had written at least the main characters. And so he came in and actually really, really made it more catered to the Hawaii kind of feel and the life there, because he had lived there. And that was one of the things that kind of sparked us into this partnership when I brought it up, was that he had lived there for a year and he had all these experiences that he brought to the table for Moments. And then now for the second book, it's a different style. So we are in our little back and forths and, doing the chapter back and forth with each other and then writing our own and then coming back together. But I think what Chris is saying about hard work is it does take a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of commitment on our parts because we have such busy lives, and we've set aside a weekly call. And if it's not a weekly call, we touch base for like 30 seconds and move it to the following week. But it's always been a constant, just keeping in touch to make sure that we're on track.
Yeah.
So,
I want to comment on 2 things real quick. First off, Anna, will you say my name, first and last name?
Kristoffer Polaha. Why?
Well, because when it prints up, it's so funny because it comes up as Chris blah blah. There it is.
Yeah, I saw it.
Everyone keeps saying Kristoffer Polaha, and it keeps coming up as Kristoffer blah blah, which is awesome. And then the second thing is that you guys are meeting us in this really interesting moment in Anna and I's working relationship, because we are just wrapping up. We've just done the work of completing, and Anna's still in the thick of it. So she's in a very tender, vulnerable, exposed moment right now as she's kind of doing the last little stretch of our second book. And it really was a different experience than our first book, which, you know, when I'm listening to the audio version, I know exactly when I came in, and Anna had created the characters. She knew where it was going to take place, you know, who it was about, the plantation was in place. All of it was a kind of, this huge ship had already been launched. And then I jumped in and I was able to add a few little flares. But the second book, it's been interesting because we've really been interdependent on one another. And you could only go so far without the other person's input. And so what became a true collaboration in the sense that she would write a chapter, it would be a writing sort of a prompt for me to then take and write the next chapter based on what she'd written and what had come before it. And you could only go so far until you decided, well, I'm just going to run with the story, and then but neither one of us was going to play that game. So it was truly, it was a longer process. It was a more arduous process. We started it in earnest, I would say, in December, or November, or was it a little sooner? Did we write some? Because we finished.
No, it was October actually. I mean, as soon as we hit we sent moments for edits. We tried to start the second book.
Yeah.
But you know, I think also when we wrote moments, Chris was traveling. He was in the UK filming Jurassic World, and then he was flying to Canada to film other shows. And so it was during his traveling and his quarantine time, but we got to really, really work on book one. I think for book two, not only were we so interdependent on each other, you know, where there were times when I would just not know how to move forward without hearing from him, because he had like certain points in his chapter that I had to carry forward. But also life just life came at us, I think, starting from the holidays all the way till now, where there's just so much going on around us. So it's been it's taken a lot longer, I think, or a little longer than what would have done, but we're done. But it took a while.
Well, I mean, it just wasn't as, I think with book one, it was a surprise to us because you and I blasted out close to 50,000 words in about a 12-day period. I mean, 15-day quarantine, but within that it was a lightning round, and we were all of a sudden, moments like this was finished.
Yeah.
And so you had preloaded it. I read what you'd written on the plane ride to the UK, and then we pitched a bunch of story ideas, and then all of a sudden you gave me the green light and you said, well, just start writing chapters. And it was very simple. It was like, you're like, just go do this thing. And then I was like, okay. And I'd write a chapter and I'd sit it. You're like, it's great. And Anna knew where to put them within the context of the book. And so she really shaped moments like this in the way that, you know, each chapter was kind of, that I wrote, was placed by Anna sort of systematically within the story. Whereas what we're doing now, it wasn't like, it's one story in one timeline, and it's moving, and it's very like dependent on both of us. And so I think it just was a different experience. Yeah. But I have a feeling that book three is going to be different based on what that story is about. And I'm sure that book four and book five are going to have their own energy, and we're going to be in our own places. And when your biography was read, like, that was already a part of how many changes have taken place from December till now.
Yeah.
So
we're trying to make, I guess when you're co-authors, you know, you're very respectful of each other's time. So what we're trying to do is just make the most out of the times that we can, and grab the snippets of time that we can, you know, while fulfilling our responsibilities outside of writing.
Yeah.
These books.
Yeah, you're both extremely busy people. I mean, how do you do it? I mean, you just have to be very organized, I guess, right?
Yeah, we are. I think we are. And I think it's weird, Chris. I think maybe it also helps that you're traveling and then you're quarantining and whatnot. Someone asked us a really good question the other time. It's like, we've written these 2 books in quarantine. What happens when it's not anymore?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Bunty. She was like, what happens when you not having quarantine? It's fun to so when you're an actor, like I'm up in Vancouver right now, and this is my office. I'm in my trailer. And I might bring you guys up to set here in a minute, but when you're an actor, the work is done first privately. You're shaping the character, you're thinking about how to move the story forward, what are the best things to do, and how to say the words that are already written for you in order to best convey the theme of the movie that you're in, and how to push that story forward. With Anna and telling a story in the written form, you do the work all the time. It's not just sitting down, memorizing, and then being on a set and being interdependent on another actor and a cameraman to film it, and all of the things that it takes to be an actor. With writing, I'll be in the shower and I'll be thinking about like, oh, well, what would be really cool is, like, I was on my way home yesterday and I'm proofreading, or I'm proof listening to the audio version of Moments Like This. And in it, Anna had written a line about Appy's dad. And it made me think of this entire storyline formed in my head, where I was like, oh, it'd be really interesting if we were to ever go, and explore somewhere down the line. And you were constantly sort of ruminating and rolling these ideas around. And I think the work, like, we can both go and do other jobs, and Anna can be a mom and a wife, and I can be a daddy and a husband, and we can both have our lives, and then she can go be a CFO and I can go be an actor. But on the back burner, there's always this story that's being told in our heads. And I think we're both, and again, we're keeping in touch, and we have this policy of like, hey, if you have a great idea, text, it doesn't matter. Like, and my wife is, she'll be like, who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's Nina. We got it. And she's like, oh, whatever. And Anna's husband, Bill, is like, oh, it's Chris. Great. Good. And it's like, so it's a fun relationship in the sense that we're able to just kind of spitball, and there aren't really any office hours. And what happens is you create this matrix so that when we do sit down to write, the fabric of the story, the tapestry, is so ornate and fully realized and thick and beautiful by the time we actually put finger to keyboard, so that the typing itself has become, I've noticed, a real seamless, easy. I mean, although hard work, like there'll be days, like I just did the quarantine and I was shooting out like, these little 2,000 word chapters, and I'd stand up and my hips would be achy, and your shoulder at one point, you're like, oh man, like I'm physically sore after 8 hours in front of the computer. Like, but we have these little lightning rounds of these explosions of creativity that these books are completed in. And I think that's a part of our process, and that's a part of the fun, I guess.
Yeah, I was just gonna tell you that I did that today, Chris.
You did?
I went back to one of the chapters and I changed some of it.
Oh, you did? Which one?
I added a backstory, so you'll see it.
Okay.
So, yeah, because it's all day. And
you're getting work done right now. See, this is good.
Ana Gomez, Kristoffer, Polaha, like.
Yeah,
we're seeing it live in action.
Yeah, and this is what our sessions are like. And and Anna is, and I'll speak to Anna, and if she wants to volley back, she can. But what I'll say about Anna is that I've worked with a lot of different creative types, and it takes a very confident and a very special individual to be as gracious and as secure and sort of encouraging as Anna has been to me, because writing is very much her world. And she invited me into it. And she said, I'd like you to take this journey with me. And I was a nervous wreck when I sent my first chapter off. I was like, oh, she likes it. Like, what if she doesn't? Like, what if I suck? What if I'm a terrible writer? And Anna, just time and time again, was like, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful chapter. I love this. And it was a lot of yes and, which in my line of work is the golden key. It's like when you're on set with somebody and somebody's brave enough to make a choice, you meet them there and say, yes. And it's also, and then you continue to build this magical scene, which then becomes full of life. And so Anna and I have really joined forces on each other's levels. And she's come up to me as far as like acting and my kind of storytelling goes, which is this very sort of visual medium, and just met me where I'm at. And she's then brought me to allow me to come and meet her where she's at. And it's really been a fun collaboration in the sense that, you know, like if I have an idea, she'll hear me out. She's like, yeah, that works. Great. Let's incorporate that. Or like, okay, maybe, and what if, and then sometimes I'll be thinking of something and she surprises me with a chapter and then we just verge and then all of a sudden it shifts. And so it's a lot of each other just being like, wonderful, great, let's go there. And let's just see where that takes us. And so in that way, there haven't been a lot of hurt feelings and there haven't been a lot of like, I don't know about that. Or, you know what I mean? It's just been a lot of like, great, that's great. Yes, let's keep. And also in that, I think the sort of supernatural, the thing that neither one of us has any control over is that she and I have very similar tastes. And we've
Yeah.
kept finding that we have a very similar point of view, so that when she brings something, I'm like, dude, that's so crazy. That's what I was thinking. And so there's a lot of, we're running on very similar, you know, tracks.
And I think that's what we take for granted. I don't think that happens all the time where you're like, you're on the same plane of thinking, you know, and you're creatively connecting. But I want to say something about what Chris said. I think it's an approach that you take to life. This is a part of it. I think if you approach everything as a journey, no matter where it takes you, whether we expected the book to do really well, which we are so pleasantly surprised, but it's the getting there and the journey. It's just like my getting to work with someone as creative as Chris and him opening up the world. I mean, I'm constantly texting him about like, are you shooting? What, like I'm curious about that life. I've never seen that side of his life. So I think if you take it like that in everything you do, it's a journey and it's a place of learning, and there's no competition because you've kind of arrived at what you want to be and you are who you want to be at this point. You know, I think that's for everything. So I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to be humble or anything. I'm just saying it's an approach, and it's an approach that works. And it's not just an approach that works with co-authorship. It's an approach in life that you take that works in every endeavor that you do. And so I think I am going to say what we're taking for granted here is how easy it is. So we appreciate that, and we're grateful for that.
I could tell by reading moments like this that you guys definitely were very connected. It was very seamless. I couldn't pick out who wrote what, I mean, by reading it. And I think that's what you really want when you're working as co-authors, is that seamless transition, that you're both on the same page. So I think that's a really kudos to you guys for being able to make that happen.
Thank you for reading it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I loved it.
I think one of the biggest compliments, or the best reviews I've read so far was that someone said reading our book was like getting a big hug or a warm hug. I was like, that's right.
Well, we were talking before, Chris, before we came on, and that it just was like, for me, it was like at a perfect time. Like I needed an escape. I needed something to read, and it took me to Hawaii. I want to go back. I've been driving my husband crazy. Like just the picture in your mind that you're able to paint by reading the book, it just really kind of took you away a little bit, and it was nice. I think it's perfect timing for a book like this. So I have a question for you guys. So this is a 5-book series, and they're all going to be set in Hawaii. And they're all standalones. Are we going to see Warren and that relationship come back or not? Andy, are we going to see them?
Anna,
Yeah.
you want to take it?
Yeah, I think yes, you will see them. Yes. It's standalone in the sense that everybody gets a story, everybody gets an ending, a happy one. Hopefully, everybody gets to have their own book, and you can interchange it. But I think at the end of the day, the readers want to know what's happening with these people as the stories progress. And I think for the second one, we're bringing Andy and Lauren back because people want to see what happened to them.
Yeah.
They passed the baton, don't you think, Chris?
Yeah, and it also just tied in really, it was a really beautiful, it made a lot of sense in regards to how we were telling the next story. Because it was just a beautiful way to introduce the next storyline and the next set of characters. It was just a great way. So we were able to kill two birds with one stone, which was just again a happy accident. I mean, we thought about it, but it was an easy. It's funny. Like I was listening to the audiobook and we referenced. So the next two books, this is public knowledge now. The next one is called Where the Sun Rises. And it's going to take place, on Kauai. And it's going to focus on Adam and Mele. And Adam obviously is Warren's little brother. And Mele is the shop girl from the coffee shop. And we referenced Adam's birthday in book one. And it was something that was so quick and I didn't even think about it. And I wrote a whole thing about Adam's birthday in book two, but the math worked. And so there were a lot of happy accidents where it was like, hey, you know what? We mentioned it and it worked. It was like an actual thing so there were some things that were unplanned that worked in our favor. And there were some things that we worked really hard to make sure. I can't help but think it's like sanding a surfboard. You just keep working. Back in the day when it was, when they were wood and you just wanted to make sure it was super smooth, or even the fiberglass ones. There was a way to shape a board just kind of perfectly. And that's what we do with these stories. Once we've written all the chapters out, Anna's process is really interesting because it's the bones. And then once you get the bones laid out, you throw on the muscle. And then once you get the muscle down, then you make it pretty. And then you make it fluid and poetic and all the things. And you add the makeup and the skin and the hair and all that. And so and then that's an interesting process because once we get the bones down, we both just volley the story back and forth. And it's like a pearl. We just keep working this thing over until it's a really beautiful story. Now we were both, I think with moments like this, we were just both pleasantly surprised at the end of it. We kept kicking it back and forth and I was able to read the whole book on my way home from the UK. And then I got a little trigger happy with I was like, what if I kept adding stuff
and things on the plane and we were like, at some point, Chris, you have to stop.
Yeah, I was like,
when is the audiobook coming out?
I think we're aiming for July. Is that right?
Yeah, late July. Yeah. So we're hoping that gets another boost. And then that kind of carries us forward to promoting the second book.
And you read it, right? You're the reader.
I am. Yeah, I narrated the audiobook. Is my first attempt. I'm going to add an apology at the end of it because I tried to say some Hawaiian words and I'm sure that I didn't do them justice. But it sounds good. I'm really pleased with the effort and So in the morning, and this is going to sound weird to your audience. So when you're an actor and you have to go to work, production wants to make sure that you're on time and that you're safe. And so I have a driver, and it's a union person, and so my driver is this woman named Carmel, not Carmel. Carmel's a candy, but Carmel, and so she's getting the sneak peek or a sneak listen of our book, because in the morning and on the way home at night, I'm proofreading or proof listening to this audiobook. And so she's hearing it. And I love her response because she's like, do we have time for one more chapter? And each one's about 8 minutes, some are 12 minutes. We've got one that's like 17 minutes long, but she's totally into the story. And I love it because I'm listening for levels and when my voice dips or if I muddied a word, or I'm listening for really technical stuff. And she's like, oh my gosh, I see the truck on the plantation. I like visualized it. And then you describe it to me like the 50, and it's just fun because like she's caught up and it's a story and it's doing its trick.
That's great. It's great to hear.
Yeah. We have people watching from all over: Riverside, California, Wisconsin, Seattle, Olmsted Township here in Cleveland area. So folks are tuning in from everywhere. I just wanted to let you guys know that's one thing that usually our author events, you know, we hold them in a big auditorium and we sell tickets, and but with COVID, we've had to reimagine how we do author events. And I think that's one of the successes that's come out of it, is we've been able to reach people from all over and see where they're listening from, and give them an opportunity to talk with you guys that normally they wouldn't get unless they came here to Cleveland.
That's great.
That's cool. We got someone from Havelock, North Carolina. Saw someone from Ohio.
Yeah, Texas.
Toronto, yeah. Edinburgh.
Yay.
Look at that. We're going global.
UK. All right.
That's
very
awesome.
Cool. So there's some questions too from some of our people who are listening, and I know you touched on this a little bit before. What about taking this to the big screen? What are the plans for movies?
Well, it's definitely on our list. That was sort of the whole point of this endeavor, was to take content from the page to the screen. And, you know, my big thing was always, well, we have to make sure we sell books. You know, there has to be an audience for it. And I kept, you know, I just didn't know what to expect. And then I was really pleasantly surprised to see that we do have a very fervent audience for this. And that's just going to be added fuel to the fire. And so as far as getting this to the screen, we are just beginning the conversation, trying to find screenwriters, trying to kind of get the ball rolling. But it is a process, and, you know, it takes a Herculean effort to make a movie, because you're involving hundreds of people and millions of dollars. And I think if we're going to tell these stories, we want to do it right. And to be really honest, my focus has been right now getting the stories onto the page. But now that the ball's rolling and now that there's momentum, pushing it to the screen is going to become easier and easier and more obvious. So yeah, we have every intention of making movies out of these.
Mary wants to know, how do you settle on the characters and their descriptions and characteristics?
That's interesting. I don't know if we settle. I think we just write. I don't know how our characters just kind of melded. You know, again, when we started Moments together, I had at least named and introduced some of the characters, especially the ones in the coffee shop. But that's all I did. And I think as the storyline evolved, we would insert snippets of the characters in there, like who they were, what they liked, what their backstory was. And Chris, I don't know if we've ever like talked about this person would be this or this person would be that. I think it was more the storyline that dictated the people, and then the people dictated the events, kind of.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we had a couple loose definitions of Andy. I mean, you talked about her height being less than 5'5", and Warren was lean. And I think when I came into the picture, it's funny, it's funny because he started with like shorter hair, and then I had long hair, and his hair grew out in the course of the story. But his eyes are blue, mine are green. Like, so it wasn't like you shaped him after me or anything like that. Like, Warren is his own guy, and he's much younger than I am and much richer than I am. And so there's a lot of, I mean, I think Andy is a lot like you, I think. Would you say?
Yeah, again.
I mean, I always envision Andy looking like you.
Yeah, it starts out like that, I think. I mean, you want to put all the good qualities that you know about a person in the book. So it's a mixture of people that we know. I think people that we've known all our lives, our relatives, or my husband, your wife, our kids, our friends. There's Appy is, as I said, the best friend anyone could ever have. She's great as a friend. She's also a neurotic friend. So she's one of our neurotic friends that we have in our list of neurotic friends. You know, I think It's a good question though, because we never really sat down and character mapped people. We didn't say this person would be this person would be that. We had the story that guided us, and then these characters just inserted themselves in our heads. And as we wrote the story, they began to take characteristics of their own. I was just
I don't. When I'm writing, like I don't have a clear picture of who Adam. He doesn't look like anyone to me, and Warren didn't look like anyone to me, and Andy didn't look like anyone. I wasn't. But it's funny because their hearts, like who the character is. I'm gonna take you guys with me, hopefully. Who the character is was very defined. Like there was somebody. They're very specific. Their personality traits are very specific, and that stayed true. And so it's like Warren did a certain thing. Like Warren was specific, and Andy was specific, and what they did, where their hearts were, I think was specific. Do you feel like that's true?
Yeah, I do feel that. I feel like that's true. And again, we're writing what we know. It's funny because the best review I ever had for Insipid, one of the books I wrote, was that this person, it was a pretty popular reviewer, had said they had never read a book that had the inside story on what happens in a boardroom. Well, of course, because that's my life, and I'm in a boardroom every day. So the story of Andy in business, oops, did we lose you? Did we lose Chris?
Maybe.
Mark.
Well, we'll carry on until we catch him back. Terry wants to know, did you guys ever have a disagreement on character or plot?
Have we had a disagreement yet? I don't think we have.
No, we haven't. We suggest things. And if we did have a disagreement, I don't think we'd both know, because what we do is we post what we write on this doc. If he wants to change it, he just goes on and changes it. And then if I want to tweak something, I'll just go and write something. Mm-hmm. We talk about it. We have suggestions. Chris will text me or call and say, can I suggest this? And I'll say, okay. But no, not really. Not really.
Yeah.
How long did it
we'll have like notes calls, and Nana will be like, can I give you a note, or can we do like, and we talk about, because some things are like Legos and they're interdependent on each other. We have to use them as building blocks and so sometimes you need a piece to just scooch over a little bit to the right, or but it's never been like, why are you having so-and-so do this, or this doesn't, like, that's not the nature of our collaboration. And I don't think, the biggest challenge I think that Anna's had to deal with me is the fact that she's having to pace herself on my crazy schedule. And it was like having a thoroughbred with a bit in her mouth. And she's like, can I write? And I was like, just give me a week. Give me one more week. So I think it's just been this idea of having to wait for each other has probably been the biggest challenge. Like, having to share back and forth, I think might have been the biggest adjustment, but not the nature of it or what we were saying.
Yeah, I agree.
How long did it take to write the first book? I know you said it took a little bit longer with the second. How long from start to finish? Carolyn wants to know that.
Well, Anna started it. So you started it in February, right?
Yeah. February, and we handed it in. You were still in London when we handed it in.
We handed it in August.
In August.
We turned it in August, and we wrote you wrote a chunk of it starting in February, and then the rest of it probably, I don't know how much of the book, but
that's like 6 months. That's like the fastest. The fastest time we've written a book. But then now when I think about it, we started in October for the second book and we're almost done. So like 6 or 7 with a 1 month breaks. We broke for the holidays. Yeah, we're fast.
That's quick. Yeah, that's great.
But you know what? I always tell my friends it's because I only do 50% of the work. So it's like, you should try it sometime. It's easier.
Split it up.
We'll collaborate. Hold on a second. All right, I'm coming on the set, guys. So you can walk on the set with me here. I have to wear a mask because of COVID, but I'll take it off here in a minute. Are you with me still?
Yeah, we're still here. Hey, Chris, somebody says that they think you're on the Mystery 101 set.
Yes, that's true. I am. I am. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm so sorry. This is kind of either cool or weird. It's either weird or it's cool.
It's
Hey,
cool.
guys.
I think it's really cool.
I'm here, but I'm on this book tour thing, so I'm in that room when they're looking for me. You know, let them know. Thanks. Okay.
You know what it is, Holly?
We'll just squeeze as much time as we can.
This was booked so way long ago. Like it was booked like in January, I think, wasn't it, Chris? January, February, this was booked. So
Yeah.
Happen.
What we're doing right now with you guys, has been on our calendar for a long time.
Yeah. So
And it just happens to be that I'm on set right now.
No, it's cool. People are commenting. It's really cool. So that they're enjoying seeing you there. So, so I guess. Oh wait, there's another question here. Someone they want to know: did you decide the chapter titles together? They love the titles of the chapters.
we did. We did. We start out as just notes on what the chapter is about. So we'll write like 3-4 words to tell each other what the chapter is about, and then they stick as the titles.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like you'd get a chapter done and you'd be like, oh, it'd be more fun to name it this, or no, a lot of it was just the pure joy of telling a story, like the cover. Like one of my favorite stories about moments like this is talking about how Anna and I collaborated when it came to the cover, because there was an original cover. It was different. And I don't know, did it bump you as much as it bumped me, Anna? Or you just,
I didn't know. You had clout because I didn't think the publisher would allow us to change it. That's the only reason. And then when
because I showed up, I felt like a bull in a china shop. Like
okay.
I literally was like, all right, the cover, we got the cover, and Anna was like, I have somebody, and I was like, are you sure? Because I couldn't tell if I didn't know if I was stepping on toes. I didn't know the politics yet. I hadn't been, and then all of a sudden you were like, no, I agree with you. Like we need to change this, and so then Anna and I, and then we started talking about like all the, almost as if we were designing a piece of technology that a user would be able to handle and hold. And so we were talking about this book as if it were a thing that people could hold in their hands. We wanted the texture of the cover specific. We wanted the color of the cover specific, the printing. We wanted the stand to look like you dropped the book in the sand, that you can almost brush it off. The spine, we have this like hidden thing that as you collect the entire series, it's going to reveal another, image on the side of the books. And it became very specific. And the colors were very specific. Like we wanted something that transported the reader, so that when it's sitting, on your bedside stand at home, or when you're holding it, reading it, or if it's on your coffee table, it makes you feel special, like elevated and transported a little bit. And that was really, really important to us. We wanted the book to be beautiful physically.
And I think we're going to be under a lot of pressure to follow that cover for the next few books.
Yeah, we are, but we're ready to meet it.
Yeah, but it was hard. It was the cover is just so perfect.
Yeah. Well, Hang Lee, her name is Hang Lee out of Chicago, and she did a really wonderful job and you know, coming on our, joining our side and just kind of really coming up with some beautiful options. And I'm sure that we'll be able to to top ourselves.
It is beautiful. It's a beautiful cover. I wish I had mine. I loaned it to somebody to show everybody. And Rita says it's a beautiful book as well. So everyone else out there that has their copy is agreeing that the cover is gorgeous. It does scream beach and Hawaii when you look at it.
But it's like you can touch the sand. Like it's three-dimensional almost, you know? Yeah. We're proud.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, as a guy, sort of venturing into the romance novelist arena, you know, one of my things is there's a guy who works here on set. His name is Sean, and he's in charge of making sure everyone's, you know, got their masks for COVID. He's a big ex-military guy. And I was like, dude, are you going to get the book? And he's like, what are you talking about? You wrote a book? And I was like, yeah. And he went and looked it up, and it's not cheesy. It's something where he was like, dude, I'm buying this. And he bought it. And I think what's fun about the book that Anna and I have written and the series that we're going to write, certainly for book 2, is that there is a male or a masculine counterpart. So we're telling stories that you're going to get Warren's point of view. And in this next book, you're going to get, and I just think that they become stories that are just more interesting to read. Not more interesting, but that's not the right thing. Sorry. I got distracted.
Ready for you.
Okay. They just become more complicated and I guess what I mean by that is if you're a guy, you can read it and you're like, yeah, I'm in this too. Am I making sense?
Yeah, it's more than a romance.
I mean, I don't want to discredit what romance is, because I think that genre, I think there's a lot of men who enjoy romance, but I'm just saying, I think that we've tapped into something that's a little different than what a lot of people have read, and where guys can be like, oh, I see a storyline that I can follow in this as well. I hope that came out the way that I meant it.
It did. Don't worry.
Rita has a suggestion for you guys if you would consider adding a map showing the locations in the books.
Anna?
Yeah, my question.
Rita, Chris had this really great idea about doing that for the second book.
That's crazy, Rita. That's a really, we're going to draw, instead of haikus, every part is going to have an illustration. Yeah. And so one of the illustrations was going to be the island of Hawaii, and kind of like J.R.R. Tolkien's, you know, The Hobbit. Guys, we're set. Do we know where it is? It's upstairs. Okay.
So what's next for you guys? I mean, you're writing this book, but what else? I mean, you're obviously on the set. What are you working on? Something else, Anna?
Yeah, I'm working on a whole bunch of things, which my publishers talked me into. So, and same thing, more books. I'm starting a new job in May, so I'm very excited about that. And I'm traveling. I booked flights. I'm actually going somewhere.
Oh, good.
So excited. So.
Is it book research related or is it fun?
No, I just need to go somewhere.
I think we all feel that way.
So, yeah, no, I think life is starting to get back to normal. So,
are you going to continue to write under Anna Gomez, or are you going to go back to Christine Bray?
No, I'm going to stick with Anna Gomez for now.
Okay.
So, we have a lot going on. I mean, if you think about it, after the summer, we're going to have to pursue a book, and then we're going to have to start writing a book. So I'm trying to get Chris's time as much as I can before he gets really busy, you know. So we're both trying to make use of all our time that we can.
Well, I have a great idea. When you guys finally meet in person, we should do it here in Cleveland. and unveil the next book that you have and have a big event. What do you think?
We're in, right, Chris?
And guys, I am gonna have to say goodbye. I have to get back to work.
Okay, so everybody just
I'm with
hold there.
my co-star Jill Wagner from Mastering. And that's Anna. That's who booked with me.
Hi.
And there's my director, and we're on a set, guys, and I'm officially on company time. So it was
All right.
a pleasure joining you. I'm gonna have to say goodbye.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Chris.
Bye, Anna.
Thanks for joining
Everybody,
us.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So Anna, it's just you and me. I just wanted to see.
Huh?
What's that?
Are we wrapping up or are we still going?
I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions from anybody.
Yeah, I've got in answer to your question, I am publishing 2 books outside of this year, but I've written them a long time ago and they were just picked up by the publisher. So we're just quietly gonna put them out there and see where it goes.
Congratulations, that's great.
The main focus is gonna be on this series, obviously. So
people are curious about the movie aspect of these books. Have you guys talked about casting who would play the role of Andy and Warren?
Chris really wants to play, and I agree wholeheartedly. He wants to play not Adam, Warren. So
Warren.
he wants to do that, and I think he would be perfect. In fact, you know, he's right. We started changing Warren for his characteristics once he walked into the picture, but for Andy, we're still trying to figure out. We have some names. I think I'd love it to be an Asian American actress, obviously, for her heritage, and we have some names that he's thrown, but I really don't know anybody. I don't know them, and I don't have anyone specific in mind. But I think we were really waiting for this book to see how it did. And we're shocked. A month later, we have 200 reviews on Amazon. We're still ranking in the numbers. So I think that was enough to convince Chris that we're going to start getting done and moving forward.
Yeah, that's great reviews on Goodreads. I don't know if you've been on there recently, but there's.
I'm afraid.
Oh, it's all good. I was reading it today. So good ratings, good reviews, couple hundred reviews on. So yeah.
I'm afraid to go into Goodreads, but maybe
you won't be disappointed. Everything I saw quickly today was very positive. So let's see. Somebody wants to know if you guys have discussed a series after this one.
No, but we've discussed another project. We just discussed another project last Sunday when Chris called me. So I think we're seeing that this is such a good partnership and that we want to venture into other things together. So stay tuned. So we have a Moments group on Facebook, and we have a Brace Butterflies group on Facebook, and those 2 groups normally get the scoops. His Polaha Chautauqua group as well, which is like thousands strong. So everybody will know when we get that project pegged.
That was one of my questions. I was going to have both of you guys talk about your different social media things that you do, and you touched on that.
Yeah, he's got his Instagram. I can speak for him. He's got at Polaha Instagram. He's got his Facebook, the same name. He's got his Polaha Chautauqua group and his Chris Polaha fan page. I have Anna Gomez Books on Instagram, Anna Gomez Books on Twitter, and Anna Gomez on Facebook. So.
And can you talk about the butterflies?
Oh yeah, the butterflies. I wrote a book in 2013. I self-published a book, not knowing where it would go. It was more a story about my relationship with my mother, and it was tragic. She passed away before, I could come home and see her. And so I thought it was very therapeutic. I would write that first book and self-publish it. Well, little did I know, somebody picked it up from the UK and set up a Facebook page for me. And it just grew and grew and grew. And so we formed this group. We named Butterflies because we all go through a catharsis. We've been together for 7 years. We've been together through midlife crisis and jobs and marriages and everything. We've been together as a group. And so, we call them the Butterflies, and it's really, really wonderful group of people.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. They've stuck with you all the way through this. Very nice.
Through books and co-authors and groups, and Chris's, a lot of people in Chris's group have joined the Butterflies, and a lot of people in my group have joined his Polaha Chautauqua group. So I think we've merged in that sense. The thing that I wanted to bring up is that the book world is very different from the TV world, and I was trying to get Chris acclimated into the book world, which is a totally different universe.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we've gotten him there, and I think he's gotten me in his world. So I think it was a good merging.
Somebody asked earlier if you've seen his work. Do you watch him on TV?
Yeah, I try. This is funny. I try not to be in his other world as much as I can, because we work very well together that way, going in separate paths. I do my day job, he does his. And we have this thing together. And also because our writing is so in your face, like we talk almost every day, I'm very careful about stepping into his world where he's with his fans and he's with his work and his family. I'm very respectful of that. So I have watched his work, but I watch it without telling everybody that I watch it, and I don't tweet it, and I don't because the whole world does. One person watching him is not gonna tip the scale. But I do. I watch him, and he's a great creative. He's just a consummate creative in everything. He sings, he writes poems, he writes books, he acts. He's got a generous heart. He's kind. He's very transparent. I'm a fan.
I can see the mutual respect you guys have for each other, and I think that's really special. Very nice. And your groups here are commenting there. We are united now, and they love the groups. So that's wonderful that people have that.
We try to get together every year, the Butterflies, and this, I think next year when things are better, we're all going to get together, and I think we're just going to put the two groups together and just meet somewhere. So that would be great.
Nice. Well, we thank you so much for joining us tonight, Anna, and thanks to Chris. I mean, he's not with us any longer, but thanks for joining us tonight and talking about your new book, Moments Like This. And we look forward to the next one coming out in the fall. Is that when we can expect it? Okay.
You have promised to have us over when things open up.
Yes, we will invite you to.
Everybody heard you.
You guys are going to meet for the first time here. It'll be awesome. We'll make that happen.
My husband's family's from there, so it'd be great if we could come and visit and meet you guys.
We figured it'd be a good neutral. You're in Chicago, he's in LA. Come to Cleveland.
Yeah.
And just a reminder for everybody tuning in. Check out Max Back's Books on Coventry. The link is in the comments there, and pick up your copy. You will not be disappointed. If you're going on vacation or dreaming about vacation, it is the book for you. Thank you, Anna. Was there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and thank you, Holly, for having us. It was such an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck with everything. Good luck with the new job. Take care.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.